Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe. Entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Welcome to episode 140 of the Industry Angel. Thanks for all your messages over this last couple of months. It's been so hard in terms of consistency for recording as I've moved into my new office, and I'm currently creating a new studio. I can't wait for it to be finished. The sound quality is going to be amazing. I'm just literally staring at boxes on the floor now with all the equipment. I can't wait to get it sorted. So please bear with me as I'm using a different microphone today, and hopefully the quality is okay for you. Thanks to Lindsay Pedersen who got in touch. She actually sent me her book, Ironclad Brand. It's right here on my desk. Thanks, Lindsay. I'll save this for a break over Christmas. And you enjoyed episode 27 with Jeffrey Moore, as he's one of your favourite authors. Mine too, Lindsay. Thanks for getting in touch. Adrian Cheeseman connected with me on LinkedIn. Glad you're enjoying the show, Adrian. And remember, there's a LinkedIn group there as well. And also Twitter, of course. If you check the show notes, you'll see my Twitter handles. I love to hear from you all on Twitter. It's my chosen platform. I'm a huge fan. Okay then, let's hear from today's guest. Today we have another member of the Two Timers Club. Welcome back to the Industry Angel, author Matthew Turner.
Hey man, how's it going? Good to speak to you again.
Really good. Yeah, you know it is episode 33 you were on. So that's a long time ago, man. That's, I'm going to find out, as we're talking, I'm going to find out when that was, because it just seems like yesterday. So, but the last time you were on, you launched The Successful Mistake, didn't you? Your book.
Yeah, and The Successful Mistake, so we're recording this in November. So this coming May, it'll have been, I think, 4 years.
You are joking.
Insane. That's since I published it.
Wowzers. Wow.
And obviously that was a book I'd been working on for probably 3 years because it involves so many interviews. So it just feels Well, I mean, it doesn't feel like a lifetime. Like you say, it feels like 2 minutes since we had our conversation, but we're probably going back 4 years, which is insane.
Yeah. I mean, just reminding the audience, you did something like, was it 100 and odd interviews with leaders? What was it?
163 entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, speakers, people of that ilk. And I just interviewed them about what their biggest mistake and failure was and the lessons they learned from that and how they managed to turn it around. And it's interesting, this most recent book, it's so different to The Successful Mistake in so many ways.
Okay.
But it was listening to all those people who, I considered very successful and listening to their journey, which just gave me a completely new insight into what success is, where success comes from, how you define success. And it was that which entered me into, this rabbit hole, which a few years down the line led me to my latest book. So it's crazy to think how different they are in style and topic. Yet for me, they're so closely linked.
Well, don't put us out of our misery any longer, Matthew. What's the new book called?
The new book it's got a working title of Beyond the Pale. It's still being written. I've just recently launched the crowd-published campaign on an incredible platform called Publishizer.
Okay.
So the book is pretty much written. I have one final chapter to do, a little bit of cleaning up to do. And then I have taken it as far as I personally can take it in the here and now. The next step will be to work with an editor who will more than likely come in and rip it to shreds, as a good editor always does.
Mm-hmm.
So the book isn't written, but in terms of me getting a good, solid, I classify this as like its third edit. I've taken it pretty much as far as I can.
Okay.
And, it's looking good. And I mean, I can give you a bit of an overview of like what it's about and how it sort of differs to The Successful Mistake.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have it. So Beyond the Pale, yeah?
Beyond the Pale. So The Successful Mistake is a very atypical non-fiction business book, full of how-to and steps. I try to add as much narrative to everything I write because I love story, and I certainly don't like dry, bogged-down content. But The Successful Mistake was very much how-to non-fiction book. I always had this dream, however, of combining my love of fiction and non-fiction, because as well as The Success Mistake, I've written 3 full novels, which are completely fictional and coming of age in nature. And that's kind of where my passion lies, really, writing fiction and creating worlds. And I've always loved this idea of writing a book which combined the two. A little bit like a book like The Alchemist does, where it brings in a lot of real world actions and beliefs, and it gets you to think about how you can make physical and literal changes to your life, but doesn't do it with a follow this formula. It's more just told through story. And Beyond the Pale is that. It's a parable or a fable, if you will, for the modern entrepreneur, those who are in the millennial generation, a little bit above, a little bit below. And it tells a story of a very successful entrepreneur, Silicon Valley success, went to a very prestigious college and university, and has only ever really known of success and I suppose like a rather privileged life.
Okay.
And this is why it's so linked to The Success Mistake, because when I was interviewing a lot of these people, they are considered very successful. But they would tell me stories about how they would often self-sabotage, even though they were successful on the outside. They reached a point where they had their eyes opening for one reason or another and began to question whether the success they had was actually the success they wanted, whether it meant anything to them. And that's the nature of this book. A very successful person on the outside who reaches a stage where he questions whether he is successful, whether he is doing what he loves, whether the business that he started is still striding towards those initial goals and vision and purpose, the big promise that he set out in the beginning.
When you think about somebody who writes a book, obviously they'll have to do lots of research and thinking about the particular topic. Whereas the 163 interviews you did for The Successful Mistake, I guess that was the research behind Beyond the Pale. You had them sort of typical common threads about self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly played a big role in the inspiration and structure in the book. It was on the back of The Successful Mistake, which led me into researching a lot on things like mindset and the psychology of where beliefs are formed, how habits are formed and how you can change them. Because as I say, interviewing all those people it just gave me a completely new insight into, that umbrella of like, what is success? We're led to believe what it is. We're given society's version of success, get this car, get the clothes, get the job role, all these things through the media, through school, through his parents, through just society in general. But interviewing all these people gave me a completely new insight. And I was like, my gosh, like how often have I questioned all this? How often have I just taken things for granted? And it led me to dive into things like mindset, how I formed my version of success, my limiting beliefs, what impact habits have on us on a daily basis, and if we take control of our habits, the impact that then has. And it led me further down the rabbit hole, looking at things like our relationship between the mind, body, and the soul, where things like yoga and meditation come into things. That then led me into aspects like flow and flow learning and what it means to be in flow and the spiritual aspects of flow, but also the more literal, physiological and psychological aspects of flow. So this is what I mean. The Success Mistake, interviewing all those people, sent me down this rabbit hole, which just took me into a direction which the last time we spoke, I probably couldn't even, appreciate any of it because I'd yet to learn. I only knew what I knew, and now I know so much more. But going down that rabbit hole gave me, like the inspiration of, okay, yeah, this is the book I need to write next.
I'm smiling away here because when I started this podcast 5 years ago, I didn't know what I didn't know either. Or when I started the 101 volunteering project that I'm doing, I didn't know that I'd meet people that would change my life. I didn't know I'd experienced so much. And you just have to start a project with an open mind and go with the flow. And I loved what you're talking about there, how it's changed and impacted you, and just from saying let's get it done.
Yeah, you just got to take a step, and that's the thing. We often are very tepid about trying something new because we can't see what's the end result. Like, I would like to write a book, but what if I can't write a book? What if it's not successful? What if it doesn't sell anything? What if people laugh? What if I don't pick up an agent? Same with start a business. Replace starting a business with starting a project, starting a new job, anything. We're always so... We hold ourselves back because what if it doesn't work out as we planned? We can't see the unknown. But here right now, we can see what's around us. We can see the journey ahead because this particular job, this particular role, it gives me a step by step. I can see where it's taking me. As soon as I take a step out of my comfort zone, I'm like out into the wilderness and I have no idea what's going to happen. But that's part of the journey. And every single one of us right now, we only know what we know. Right now, I only know what I know. If I could shoot forward, a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I would debunk so many myths that I hold true in my head today. Things which I presume to be true, presume to be 100% factual. I learn something new, I get a different insight, I try something new, I come across something new, and all of a sudden it questions that thing which I believe to be true. I go down a bit of a journey, I'm like, oh my God, it was wrong, and I know new things now. Then it just replaces those things. And you don't get to experience any of that until you take a step, until you do something a bit big, until you do something a bit scary.
You always get me thinking. You always get me deeply thinking here when we talk. You're so calm, and you throw us down rabbit holes. So I'm thinking now about self-rejection. I'm thinking now about self-sabotage. So have you learned any methods where we can stop pushing ourselves into that realm?
Yeah, it's funny because one of the big premises of Beyond the Pale is linked to hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've now termed, like, I've tried to start a bit of a movement and a bit of a conscious effort to glorify the anti-hustle.
Yes.
I think we live in a society that glorifies the hustle. And when I talk about the hustle, I don't mean purely working 18 hours, lifestyle entrepreneur, living on a laptop, yada, yada, yada. For me, hustle begins with this self-sabotage. It begins within. We're constantly connected. Every single day, we are given an insight into another person's version of life and what success means and what the perfect body looks like and how we should think and how we should feel through social media, scrolling through Facebook, TV, advertisements, all these things. And we get an insight into the should have, how I should feel, how I should look. We know intellectually that we're only getting an edited version of that influencer's life on Instagram, that there's more to their story than that we see. Yet that little inner dialogue within is constantly going, yeah, but they've got it better than you. And you come up with reasons why they've got it better than you. Even though intellectually, like, so much of it's edited and so much of it's not true. Emotionally, you're just driven into insecurity. You compare yourself to others. You compare yourself against what you feel you should have and that you don't. You lose track of the progress you have made and instead just focus on the progress you haven't made. And for me, this sends us into the hustle. We work harder than we need to. We work longer than we should do. We work on things that don't really mean anything to us. We push toward a version of success, a version of happiness, a version of whatever, because we just feel like if I get there, I will feel better. I can feel good about myself then once I get there. And it just pushes you into this hustle mentality. So when I talk about the hustle, I don't thoroughly mean working 18-hour days, burning candles from both ends. It can mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. The hustle for me is just throwing you into this, I should have this, I could have this, I want this because that person's got it, I want it. And you're constantly doubting yourself. constantly pushing yourself a little bit harder. And it leads to sabotage, self-sabotage. Because deep down, there's that soul within us, that bigger voice, that truth within us, that something within us that is going, hey, I don't want this. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. Like, if you get an extra 10 grand a month, that isn't going to make us happy unless you fix this. But you've just drowned out that voice with all these other distractions, and you just push it further down. But it's always going to be there, self-sabotaging, getting you going, because it doesn't mean anything. So for me, a big part of avoiding self-sabotage is to take a step back and ask these questions. And that is very much what the character in Beyond the Pale does. He realizes in hindsight, further on in the book, that he has spent the last few years, albeit very successful, millionaire, 100 millionaire, like his company is going to go public and join the $100 billion club. He's on the fast track to becoming a billionaire. So he's really successful. He's got the fame, he's got the authority. But he realizes he's spent the last few years self-sabotaging with drink, destroying relationships, pushing people away, because it didn't mean anything to him. At least it didn't mean the right things for him. He'd lost track of what he actually wanted. And it led to self-sabotaging, but he went, 3, 4, 5 years without even knowing it. And on the outside, it looked like he wasn't self-sabotaging at all, because he was becoming more famous, becoming more powerful, making more money. So self-sabotage, you want to avoid that. It starts with stepping back and asking those big questions. What am I doing? What does success mean for me? Like, what is my big promise to myself, my family, my community, my audience, those people that I serve? What is my purpose? If I'm doing my work, what is it? Like, what is my purpose for all this? And I'm just reading Stillness is a Key by Ryan Holiday. And as I was coming home, the chapter was talking about virtue. And virtue is basically those big moral compass values that we live by. And that's what it's all about. It's like, what is virtue to you? Removing everything else, like, what is it that drives you as a person? What is that fuel? And if you figure out what that is, and even if you don't necessarily even have to figure it out, once you start questioning that and start thinking about it and start exploring that, you'll find yourself self-sabotaging, because you'll take a step back and go, like, do I want this?
Self-sabotaging in a good way?
No, you'll stop self-sabotaging.
Stop, sorry. I think it's you start. Okay, you start questioning yourself, and yeah.
Yeah, because you'll notice, you become more conscious of when your mind's running down that thing. Oh my God, like, I finished early today. I could do this, I could do that. And you stop and go, well, is that helping me? Or am I just comparing myself to somebody else? By taking that client, every time you take on a new client or start a new project, it's that little sort of filter where you step back and go, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I taking on that client because it's bringing me in some money, but is it going to be at the expense of my health, my well-being, my creativity? Am I going to hate it? And sometimes you've got to do that. If you've got bills to pay, and you got to, but you're conscious about it and go, yeah, okay, I'll do this for like 3 months, but then I'm going to draw a line in the sand. I'll do it until I get to this stage, because it'll allow me to then break free and do that. So you just start to be more conscious of it, more strategic about it, and you stop self-sabotaging because you have no need to.
That kind of awakening or awareness of that over that 163 interviews that you've done, I'm sure you would have found people who were in the midst of that kind of hustle mode. And
yeah.
Did you kind of try to enlighten them on this, or did you just keep stum and just let them talk?
I didn't know it at the time. When I was interviewing people for the Successful Mistake, I was blind to it. Okay. So as I said in the beginning, I only knew what I knew.
Yeah.
And even though I thought I had a good hold on what success was, looking back, I realized I basically subscribed to the version of success that the media had driven me in society, and my parents in school, and my own limiting beliefs, my own insecurities, my own fears. So I was listening to all this and taking it on board, but I didn't fully appreciate it. But now as I'm looking back, I remember certain people saying certain things, and I'm able to appreciate the sort of journey. And it's been amazing because I've seen people. One of the best examples is someone who I worked with for quite a while, Scott Oldford. I'm still trying to get him involved in this book, and we may make it happen. We'll see. I've set him a deadline in the next few days. But I interviewed him for The Success Mistake when he was in the midst of like hustle. And I remember him telling me, like, if you're not willing to work 80-hour weeks, you can't even call yourself an entrepreneur.
Right, okay.
And this is what he said to me back then. We're going back quite 5 years, I would say, when I interviewed him for this. Now, Scott today, man, he will have worked 80 hours in a week for a long time. And he is so different. And it's amazing because a lot of the journey that the main character in the book, Ferdinand, takes, like Scott's taken a very similar one. Back when I first did it, he was completely not blind to the idea of mindset and, like psychology and psychology, everything like this. Like, but now, like, this is what he lives and breathes. He's so much more chill, so much more at peace. He was fueled by earning more and doing more and being more back then. And whereas now he's just a total different guy. And yeah, it's because he too had his awakening. He started questioning his beliefs, his fears, what was holding him back. And it's been a really raw and opening journey of his.
So thinking about any listeners, Matthew, listening to your words there, who haven't had that awakening or enlightening, is that something you can force? Can you force the questioning? Can you go away and think about your virtues, your values, and try and discover who you are? How do you start?
It's a good question. You can and you can't force it. I think a lot of us, like I say, we know this intellectually, but until we're ready to listen to it emotionally, it's difficult to force for nature. It's you can't force someone to change who's not ready to change. It's like the addict. You can only really help them when they're ready to be helped. But you can force it in a sense, because right now everyone's listening. Like, you can take a step back after this and accept what I'm about to say. You are broken. You are not perfect. You are a very flawed human being, because we all are. That's the truth. That is the facts, period. And just knowing that takes a bit of a pressure off your shoulders. It's like, okay, yeah, I am. Fair enough. So what am I clinging to? Like, what do I believe to be true? What is factual and truth and 100% certain in my life? And it might be that you come up with some, things, maybe around, your relationships, maybe around money, maybe around your health, maybe around your business. It might be that you have this belief that you need to build an 8-figure business, for instance. Well, question that. Why do I want to build an 8-figure business? There's nothing wrong with building an 8-figure business. It's an amazing thing, done for the right reasons. You can have huge impact on so many people, including yourself and your family and so many others. But is there a real reason for building an 8-figure business? And you just start pulling the thread then. And a lot of the times you realize, well, what life would I lead if I had an 8-figure business? Do I need that? Would it be better to have a 7-figure business? Would being in 6 figures and having a smaller team allow me to achieve more of my version of success? Because if you start to realize that your version of success is very much based around time and freedom and having the freedom to travel and spend time with your family, is doing what you're doing now going to help you do that, or is it taking you further away? So it's just looking at what you believe to be true, looking at your goals, looking at your vision, and just questioning them. It's not to say they're wrong, but it's just looking at them and saying, where do they come from? Like, is this true? Does this still apply to me? is there something else? Like where, why did I come up with this dream to build this or to do that? Is there something else I could be doing? Once you start questioning that, it sends you down a rabbit hole. And from there, everyone's journey is inevitably going to be different. And you can read books and you can speak to people and you can listen to podcasts and you can just, like an onion, layer by layer, strip it away, learn more, debunk those myths that seem so true and factual in your head. And who knows where you'll go. But if you want to force it, you force it by just asking those questions in the beginning. And that, for me, begins with the acceptance of I am broken. I am flawed. I am not perfect.
It's often said that we're the average of the 5 people we hang with. And I think in addition to questioning ourselves, I think it's also hanging around with different people and meeting different people and just spending time with them and just seeing what their mindset is and how their day-to-day is and what their values are. Because I've learned so much just off socializing or joining networking events or professional memberships and just being around different people and then rubbing off on me. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's so true. I mean, I started realizing all this by interviewing people for the Success Mistake. I was just surrounding myself, even if it was only just in little 30, 40-minute snippets, with people further ahead than me who had gone through what I've gone through, further ahead, just further down the road, all that. And they just gave me bit by bit new insights.
Yeah.
And it helped me appreciate things from a different angle. And once you accept that and you see that, it makes it easier to just question it and go, well, all right, what's true? What's not? Is this making me happy? And yeah, I realized I was doing a lot of things which were taking me away from what I truly wanted. And once you accept that, it's scary. In the book, it's basically broken down into 3 stages. And a lot of the stuff which I do beyond the book, it focuses around these 3 stages. And the 3 stages are awakening, ascension, and evolution. And the awakening is just having that, having your eyes opened by something, by someone, by just questioning yourself. And it's a frustrating period because it gives you no answers and it just throws you a lot of questions. And it's really scary because it throws you into the next stage. Well, you have a choice. You either can go back to sleep or you can decide that you're going to step out of your comfort zone and go and figure out what you actually do want, Matrix style, red or blue pill.
Yeah.
If you choose to go beyond, then you step into stage 2, ascension, which is basically a stage that is just going to break you, re-break you, reform you, rebuild you, break you again. And you've got to, dig and research and push yourself beyond, and there's no guarantee that you can't see what's beyond. You just go and ascend up the mountain, climb, just take it a step at a time and see where it takes you. But then the other end of that, at stage 3, is evolution. You're able to look down at the top of the mountain and see where you've come from. You now know more than you once did.
Yeah, that's interesting because you can't take that learning away once you've received it. Sometimes you might say ignorance is bliss, but I think the ascension stage is actually the exciting part because
it is.
You can shape that any way you want. You've just said there, books, podcasts, getting out and speaking to people, and I believe that can become quite addictive. That soaking up of knowledge, you actually become. It's like. I did a talk yesterday, and what I said was the first 5 years of our life, our brains grow and develop faster than any other time. I think when you're in this ascension stage, you are like that again. You're ready. I know I am personally. I'm in this stage at the moment, and I can't get enough of doing things like this.
Absolutely, it is. It's the exciting part because you woke up and you realized. I desire more than what I have. I see where I'm going wrong. And sometimes these are like big, life-affirming, life-changing things. Sometimes they're just small little bits like, wow, I've been wanting to lose weight for the wrong reason. The goal remains the same. You still want to lose weight, but now you want to change your lifestyle, So that changed lifestyle, rather than just hitting the gym and trying to get as big and bulky as you can, you might, decide to go vegetarian or vegan or something and start doing yoga as well as that because you want to feel better. and it leads you into all these other benefits,
Sure.
from an environmental and societal view. So sometimes they're like life-changing things. They can actually literally save your life, and sometimes they're just little pivots that just give you a greater insight into things. But it's exciting because you learn these new bits, you get introduced to new ideas, new people, new concepts, new communities. It can take you down completely new paths and avenues, which can lead to new businesses, new ventures, totally different things, which you wouldn't have known about had you taken that leap. But it's also a very scary period because you never know what's coming next. And you are changing yourself. Like, you might realize the people you hung around with are no longer who you should be hanging around. You may realize the relationships you have are, fractured, whereas before you thought they were all right. You may realize that who you were isn't all who you want to be. So they can be, very scary, very impactful, like hurt you, push you out of the comfort zone in a tough way.
Yeah.
So it can be hard, and there's a lot of frustration in that, and anger and confusion. And in the book, the lead character, as the story prolongs, he keeps coming back to this. He feels a heaviness in the pit of his stomach. He's now conscious of it. He's aware of it, and he's trying to just accept it, but he realizes it's there, and he doesn't understand what it fully is and why it's there. And he's now intellectually aware that there's something inside him trying to tell him something, but he just doesn't know what it is. And you can't force them those answers, unfortunately. Sometimes you just got to go through the process, and bit by bit, one thing leads you to another. And you just have to have the faith that it'll lead you to the top of the mountain so you can look down and go, I understand it now.
Matthew, I think that's a perfect place to leave it, my friend. That's some great reflection. I'm really pleased to share that last 3 stages with us, because that certainly give us some food for thought about where we see ourselves in those stages. And in terms of evolution, do you ever reach there? Do you ever get there? Because does that mean that you're no longer open to change?
Well, I will just end it on this, because that's the great thing about these stages. And a lot of the time, evolution, once you get to stage 3 evolution, it just leads you to a new awakening. And I liken it like this. Once you awaken, you're stood at the foot of the mountain, and all you can see is the mountain before you. So you go in stage 2 ascension, and you climb up that mountain bit by bit, and eventually you reach the top, and you look down and you see where you've come from, and you can see the journey, and you can see how your life was, and you feel great for it. But then you turn your head and you realize you're not at the top of the mountain yet at all. There's another peak ahead. You couldn't see that peak from the bottom, because all that was before you was the mountainside. But now you've climbed it, you can see there's another peak to climb. So you get to choose again. Do I stay here, or do I ascend? So a lot of the times, evolution just leads you to a new awakening.
Fantastic. I love that, man. Do you know, as I was in the Lake District on Saturday with my friend, and it was so misty on the top, because we're obviously November now. And as we got to the top, we couldn't see our hands in front of our faces, and I just had my iPhone in terms of a compass and a map that was getting blown all over. And just as you said there, we thought we were at the summit, took 5 more steps and realized we weren't, and we had to keep going again. And it's the same thing there, but I love that. It's a bit of a constant learning.
It's life.
Yeah.
We're all on a journey. You get to choose how you want to embark on it, I guess.
Yeah. Fantastic, Matthew. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And just before you go, I'm really interested in what you said at the top of the conversation. I didn't push you to go off on that tangent, but you just mentioned that the way you're publishing this is through a different platform.
Yeah, well, as I say, the book itself is still a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm pitching agents, and I haven't decided whether I'll self-publish or hybrid publish or traditional publish. But there's a platform I love called Publishizer, and it just gives people an opportunity to become part of the journey from the get-go. And what's great about it is whatever happens from a publishing aspect, everyone who pre-orders one of these early copies is going to get something unique. So it's going to be a unique special edition version, which only those who pledge as part of this crowd publish campaign. And it's a chance for me to, build an early army of followers and people excited about this book and the anti-hustle movement and everything beyond. Beyond the Pale is going to be the first book of 3, so it's going to be a trilogy. And this is just an opportunity to get those who I know and those who support me and those who are interested in this kind of thing to be part of it from the get-go. So yeah, if you're interested in this book and you like parables and fables like The Alchemist, I certainly encourage you to check it out. It's I've got a grand old journey for everyone involved planned, so I'm excited to unravel it in the coming weeks, months, and years.
Fantastic stuff. Well, I'll link in the show notes, but can you say it verbally? Is it something people can easily remember where to find you?
Yeah, I have it redirect. So turndog.co/guest, and that should redirect you to the crowd publish campaign. And then when that's ended, it will give you just opportunities to sign up, get a sample of a book, things of that nature. So yeah, that's going to be the best place for you to go. turndog.co/guest. You get to learn more about myself. You get to learn more about the book, any other projects I'm working on. And yeah, I encourage you to join my journey.
Excellent stuff, Matthew. Well, it's been great to catch up after all these years and hear about your next challenge, and actually hear about the ascension that you're going through at the moment as well. It's been remarkable, and you know what it is? It's actually International Men's Day this week as well, and I think this has been really fitting because it addresses some of the challenges us men face, especially in the world of business and in that kind of hustle state that we're in. So thanks so much, Matthew.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Matthew's wisdom there, delivered in his calm and soothing manner. Very fitting for this week, actually. As I mentioned, I gave a talk for International Men's Day, and I spoke in depth about the anti-hustle, as Matthew terms it. You know, in terms of not pressurizing ourselves to become experts in year one. That's what I was talking about. And as leaders, we shouldn't expect that of our staff either. I talked about Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, where he mentions that mastery of a topic and to become an expert takes 10,000 hours. And what I was talking about was 10,000 hours at 40 hours a week will take 5 years. So why do we try to pressurize ourselves in year one? So I want you guys to ease off the gas a little bit. Try not to push too hard. Remember, you don't want to be burning out. Good is good enough, and actually there's a point where the more effort you put in, the gains become really marginal. So good is good enough. And just like Matthew there, I am concerned as well about how we feel about ourselves and the need and the pressure to look good. You know, Matthew touched upon social media influence in that, and I see these people in the gym as well. You know, they're pushing hard, and I get that. I love to train, but when you see people in magazines and on Instagram, they don't look that good all the time. It's probably about 1 or 2 weeks a year when they get themselves in that contest and show condition. Your body doesn't want to maintain that. It can't maintain that. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to be this perfect model body person. Just do what you're doing now, you know. Look after yourself, drink more water, eat a balanced diet, sleep more. Try some of them apps to meditate, such as Calm and Headspace, is it? You know, get yourself out in nature, spend time with friends, ease off the gas, not too much pressure, embrace the anti-hustle. Because on your deathbed, I guarantee you will not say that you wished you'd had one more meeting. So until next time, I am Ian Farah, this is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.